Hello, everyone. My name is Gus, and today we have another interesting episode, and that's because Woody's not here. As you can see, I'm by myself in the studio. Because of work, Woody has been forced to move to South Florida. Poor thing. Yeah, he's suffering so much, living in amazing weather and the best food in the U.S., probably. And he's not here. He's not here in the studio. However, I did the next best thing. We're going to be reacting to one of his dives. And no, I'm not jealous at all. If you didn't notice in the thumbnail, I am not jealous that he got to penetrate the wreck called Lady Luck. So this is a wreck in South Florida. It starts at about 60 feet and it goes to 130, 126, something like that. In meters, that is 20 to 40, 20 to 38, something like that. Pretty close there. And it's a really long wreck. I believe it's 328 feet, if I'm not mistaken, which is almost 100 meters, like maybe 99 meters. So it's a long wreck. And because of the depth, which is 60 to 120 something feet, it's perfect for recreational divers to go and check it out, although they recommend that you're in advanced open water at least. But, Woody was on a rebreather, and he was with buddies that are cave divers, so they really went in and took a good look at this wreck. So no, I'm not jealous. Now, one of the things I wanted to mention as I play this video and react to it is that some of the clips that I received, all of these are unedited clips, by the way. I just got a bunch of clips from the dive, and I put them together in sequential order. Some of these clips don't have audio because there was an alarm going off, and it was making me crazy. It was like beep, 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 like nonstop, and it was making me crazy. So basically, I cut the audio in some of them. Some of the other clips is either muffled or there's no alarm. So I'm not sure why the alarm was going off. But anyway, they started out here on the outside of the wreck, the perimeter of the wreck, obviously how every wreck dive starts. And one of the things that you will notice pretty much immediately is that there's a lot of current. There's a lot of current in South Florida. And the safest place, if you don't want to be affected by the current, is to actually get into the wreck. Now, you can hear the audio on this one. Now, I want to take this opportunity to mention that unless you are trained to penetrate wrecks, do not go inside of wrecks. So please don't take this as a green light to just go and navigate through the wrecks like you know what you're doing. Notice that both Ryan, who's the guy with the blue fins, and Woody with the orange fins know what they're doing. They're on trim. They're staying away from the silt at the bottom. Interesting fact, this wreck was sunk in 2016, so only 6 years ago. And you can see he's already like completely covered in life, sea life, and also there's silt everywhere. So as you can see, they go inside. Obviously, at this point, there's no current. Woody's loving life, not jealous. And they are navigating the inside of the wreck. So notice the bottom, the walls, everywhere is just covered in silt. And there's no way to not stir up the silt. Like even the bubbles, as they exhale, they will hit the ceiling of the wreck and silt will rain on them. So there's just no way to avoid it. It doesn't matter how good trim you have. Just simply if you stay still and not move, just blowing out bubbles will make silt rain. So there's no way to do it. So you can see he's angling and going through it. Typically in South Florida, if the wreck was sunk on purpose to allow for diving and for marine life to grow in it, they will have really big cuts, right? For divers to go in, through and out, in and out of the wreck and explore, make it safer. And this obviously makes it easy when it comes to penetration as well. When it comes to wreck diving, the way I think about it is there's really 3 levels. And again, don't kill me. There's other agencies that only have 2 levels. Maybe agencies have 5. I don't know. I don't know every single agency in the world. But the way in my head, there's 3 levels. One is you're rec certified, just recreational diver, which allows you to, or doesn't allow you to, but it teaches you how to wreck dive mainly on the outside of the wreck. So understand how to approach it, especially if visibility is not great. You know, what's the perfect way to approach a wreck, how to avoid getting hurt and, hurting the wreck as well. So that is kind of the first level, is the rec certification. Then after that, there's an advanced rec certification. in which typically they teach you how to do what I call limited penetration, right? So there's no standard for this. There's no, and here we're watching, them navigating inside the wreck. Notice that they're keeping basically the same kind of trim. But look how big that opening is. And it's huge, right? So this is not like a tight restriction that you can go through. These are wide open for divers to be able to swim through them. And even the opening on the bottom you see is massive as well. Some of them were there before, just navigation pieces of the wreck, but some of them were actually open. Like literally they were caught with like a torch and open to make it bigger. I don't think this one was one of those. Maybe they removed the floor. That way you can swim through it. But what I was saying is that you have limited penetration. There's no standard as far as I can tell for what limited penetration is. In my eyes, limited penetration is anywhere you can go where you have at least one, but preferably more than one, exit that is visible. And it's an actual exit, not a porthole that you can only fit without tanks. And there's some stories, harrowing stories, of people that have ran out of air and literally have their arm out through the porthole trying to get out, and they get caught. So that's not an exit. Just because you have light coming through a hole doesn't mean you can exit through that hole. So limited penetration means you can go inside the wreck, typically do a swim through, or if you're going to be in a room that you have at least one, preferably more than one, exit. And not, like I said, a restriction, something that you can swim through. You shouldn't depend on light of the day coming through the hole. By the way, see like this massive hole to swim through. Woody's not even going to touch it. Well, he touched with a little bit with his fins, but it's massive. Light can come through the hole, but you don't depend on that light to navigate out. The idea is you either have a light, but in the case of a full silt out, you should be able to find the exit or more than one exit, and it should be huge if possible so you can get out easily, right? Even in complete blindness, like you have no vis, you should be able to exit. And then you have the full penetration, which is I think what most people think about when they think about wreck diving, is that you can penetrate anywhere in this wreck, go anywhere, any room, and that's typically the one that leverages the most cave diving skills of running lines, sharing air with your buddy, single file, air consumption and calculations, and you're typically going to deco, and it's just the more technical side of wreck diving. Wreck divers would argue that there's more skills that you need to wreck dive properly, more than even cave diving. And then cave divers will say, well, there's some things in a cave that you don't have in a wreck, but there's some things in a wreck. Anyway, it's just like this battle. I don't know why. It's like there's like this never-ending battle between wreck divers, technical wreck divers, and cave divers. I don't care. You both people have kind of similar skills. They're both great divers. They should be at least the skills that they have in terms of trim and buoyancy. Here, the person recording this video, I forget their name. You can see the inside of what a room looks like. It's just full of silt everywhere, but there's big, massive exits in the ceiling. There's probably exits behind them. So, keeping perfect trim, great stuff, staying away from the silt. And you can probably see the other divers as well doing a great job with the trim, not kicking up the silt, obscuring the vision. So it's fun. Penetrating wrecks is fun. You noticed earlier that they got to the engine room, and being able to see some of that in wrecks is pretty cool, because not a lot of people penetrate wrecks, let alone go all the way to like the engine room, which is pretty cool. But these guys are not running lines. I know before you start asking questions, why are they not running lines? It's because they're really doing limited penetration, which is again what I was talking about before. Massive exits. Look how big these holes are to get out of them. And even in a full silt out, you can probably go to the ceiling or the walls and feel your way to a big gap and get out. There are other wrecks that we can dive in South Florida where you absolutely need lines if you want to go far to the engine rooms and things like that. The Oriskany, for example, is in Florida. It's the largest wreck in the world. It's an aircraft carrier, and it's pretty deep. And if you're going to penetrate deep into the Oriskany, you need lines for sure. So here they're doing some swim throughs. Look at the growth of life everywhere. Like every inch of this thing is covered in stuff. I love it. And there's so much stuff to see. Like if you stop to pay attention, you see nudibranchs, and you'll find a bunch of different things living in there. And if you have a guide that knows what they're looking for, that's even better. They'll be able to spot things that I would swim by and not even notice it, right? So many things in here. They start running into other divers as well. They were not penetrating. They were outside. Like I said, the wreck is pretty big. It's 330 feet almost. I think it's 328 and 50 feet deep. So 15 meters plus 16, something like that, wide. So 100 meters by 16. It's a big, and I think it's 20 meters high or 60 feet high. So it's a big wreck, really big wreck, and with a lot of places to go. So you can see they're swimming here through these. I don't know what this is. This is not pipes. It looks like pipes, but also looks like some kind of rail system. Maybe they had a rail on top of the boat. I'm not an expert in wrecks or boats by any means, so I don't know what this is called. Probably somebody who was in the Navy knows exactly what this is. But a lot of cool stuff to look at. And I've been to this wreck, I think, 3 times, and I've never done the same dive. I mean, it's so big and so much stuff to see. So you can see Woody is out here swimming and dealing with current. They're probably trying to get to the other end of the ship, the other end of the wreck, to look at some things. Just frog kicking, staying in trim. This is why trim is important. Now imagine to go from one end of the wreck to the other, and one end of the wreck to the other, and be on a diagonal or vertical fashion, right? You can't move. Like you will go through your whole air, both tanks or one tank or whatever. You will kill it, the air in the cylinders before you can get there. So being in trim, very, very important. So here's Woody. There's a guy filming him. One thing I thought it was funny is I don't know if you guys caught it. I think it's coming up, but this guy was filming Woody, and then they start following him. It's like they know who he was, obviously, because he has Dive Talk stickers and all the tanks, and he has the pink stuff. But then they start taking selfies with him underwater. Look at this. I thought it was cool. Woo-hoo. Selfie. Woody's like, wow, that was cool. And I remember he texted me later. He's like, wow, I met some people underwater in the wreck. They recognized me. And I was like, wow. But you can see, let me go back for a second. How easy it is to recognize them. Look at the tanks. Dive Talk, Dive Talk, Dive Talk. Right? The other tank looks almost the same. And then look at the loop covers. It's a gift from Sunny, by the way. But you see, it has the Dive Talk logo on both sides. And he says Woody on it, right? So not only pink, but stickers, like a giant billboard underwater, which is cool. So they spotted him and took some selfies. And there you go, a closer look of what it looks like. Also the mast strap. So Dive Talk everywhere. And we love it. These are the divers. You can see they're doing their safety stop or deco stop in this case. All on trim. Looking great. Great job, everyone. Everybody did a great job in this dive, and I'm not jealous. So there he is. Woody doing his stop. And there's a deco stop. We do get questions once in a while about what do we do in deco stops. You're watching exactly what we do. Just sit there and wait. You can hear the alarm, and this one is muffled, but in the other ones was pretty loud. And that was it. Just a quick glimpse of what a dive looks like when you have a bunch of technical divers that are going into a wreck and looking to explore. So they were inside, outside, and obviously you see all the skills that you have to have in order to stay safe, keep the vision clear, don't mess everything up, and that's what makes it fun. I remember, I don't know how many of you watch Jocko Willink, but he says discipline equals freedom, right? That's exactly how it looks when you're diving. Having that discipline gives you the ability to have the freedom to have this great dive, clear visibility, everyone's safe, and just have the discipline. Keep getting after it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We have recorded other dives in the ocean before. There's one that we recorded at Captain Dance, another wreck in South Florida. And in case you haven't seen that, I'm going to leave it right here. And again, I'm not jealous at all, but you'll see my dive and compare it to this one on the next one. See you then.